Perfect. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning into a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this afternoon. We have an incredible guest with us, one who we look forward to getting some amazing information from, as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Dr. Jennifer Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Lakers.
Yes, ma'am. This is an extreme honor to get to have a conversation with you. For those who may not know, you and your husband watched me and my siblings grow up. So this is, my mother always taught us, stay out of grown folks' business. So we didn't really talk to the adults like that. So now that we're older, I can have a conversation with you. This means a lot to us. The first question we want to know is how did you become a doctor? Like, how did that come about?
Oh, wow. That is a long story that I will try to make short. But first of all, I must say that I'm truly honored to be here among all the wonderful guests that you have had over the months. Has it been over a year? It's been over a year for you,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I've had the honor of being able to peek in here and there on some of your podcasts. So I love the work that you're doing. I love the work that your father. Praise be to Allah. Oh, how did I become a doctor? Very good question. As some may know, my husband and I used to own an interior decorating company in Chicago.
Mm.
We were the largest Black-owned interior decorating firm that had the capacity to make our own mini blinds and vertical blinds. We had our own factory, and we were actually over there in the Pioneer Building at one point. So that was really exciting to have been part of that history. And we also owned an real estate management company and a real estate brokerage firm. And so also I had a homeschool as well. So I've kind of, being in Islam, it teaches you how to multitask on 15 different levels. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mastered 20 levels. So I'm very grateful. And so when we moved to Arizona from Chicago, I was working at the airline, still work with the airline in different capacities. And one day I just said, okay, what else? What's my next adventure? We had closed down the interior decorating firm, and it's like, okay, what's my next adventure? And we were at Savior's Day, October 2008. Brother Barack Obama was going through the election, and that was the minister was asking the question, with President Obama's promises of wanting to create jobs and opportunities, he asked the question, how many of us were ready to step up and take some of those positions and help to move our community forward? So I started thinking, my husband and I had been talking about me going back to school. He wanted me to go and get my MBA. And, having been a business owner for over 20 years with 4 different companies, I'm like, what is an MBA program going to teach me that I don't already know from the School of Hard Knocks? So Allah talked to me that day and said, I want you to go into nursing. And I'm like, nursing? What are we talking here? You talking wiping someone's backside, really? But I was inspired. I went back. I started researching. Next thing you know, I was in nursing school. I literally got on, there were waiting lists that for somehow Allah got me through the waiting list. And so I, started nursing, and my desire was ultimately to start up some hospices. These are residential-like care facilities for people who are making their transition. They're terminally ill and they're dying. I discovered I had a knack for treating and helping people who were going through their transition. So that was my desire, to start some hospices. And as I went along, Allah says, Sister Jennifer, I want you to teach. I'm like, teach what? And so then I became a nurse educator and responsible for teaching and training other nursing students on different levels of nursing. And then he's told me, I want you to become a provider. I'm like, what are we talking here? And he says, our people are dying because they're not going to the doctors because they don't see many of us in the care setting. So um, next thing you know, I'm a nurse practitioner. And then he said, let's not stop there. I want you to become a doctor. I want you to get that terminal degree. We need you at the table helping to make policy decisions and this and that and the other. So here I am. Yes, sir.
Praise be
Yes,
to the
sir.
Lord.
Yes, sir. At the end of
Beautiful.
the day, it was really about me following what I felt was the inspiration from Master Fard Muhammad. Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am. So, are you saying to the future generations and those who are watching that it's never too late to go back to college to pursue your dream?
Exactly. Exactly. My story is I'm still 35, although my oldest is 36. You got to do that math, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was always the oldest student in my classes. I was always looked at upon as, the mother figure and go to Jennifer, she can help you. I was always that one to kind of give, balance to the situation, bring my experiences of life to the table, which was really important. So yes, it's never too late. I have friends who are starting their master level coursework, and at 57, so it's never too late. As long as you are still walking and upright and in part of your right mind, go for it.
Mm,
Sir.
mm. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Well, um, when did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Oh, wow, good question. Um, Interesting enough, when I was growing up, I grew up on the west side of Chicago, never heard of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, never heard of Brother Farrakhan, never heard of the Nation of Islam. And I can't say that I was in some sheltered hole or something. I just never heard of it. And when
Mm,
I came out of high school working, I met a young man who introduced me to the teachings. And I first heard the minister live and in living color. Um, and what was that? It must have been September 1990.
mm, mm,
He did a lecture at the amphitheater in Chicago. And I remember sitting there, of course, going through the search procedure, being absolutely floored by that,
yes.
just a systematic, in and out. And of course, your mother was there. Hello. Just seeing the sisters just so polished and so together, in a beautiful spirit, and hearing Brother, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, he wasn't singing, he wasn't dancing, there was no concert, but there were, thousands of people in this auditorium to hear him. And I
Mm,
remember just sitting there in awe of like, wow, look at this.
mm, mm.
There was no fighting, just it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. So I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. 1990, yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And once you accepted the teachings, how did your family and friends feel?
Good question. Of course, I was born and raised in the Christian church, very active in the church in our community, as a matter of fact. Sang in the choir, run around the city, church visits on Sundays. Um, I don't think that my family were disappointed. They were kind of in awe. Okay, let's see what happens from this. My father, may God be pleased with him, he made his transition in 94, 96, I believe. He was very familiar with the teachings through the aldermen of our area.
Mm,
So, but again, I never heard this conversation because, of course, as a child, we were seen and not heard. So we weren't in grown folks' conversation either.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But so, yeah, my mother and father, they were tentative, especially when I came around talking about how I'm not eating pork anymore.
Mm, mm, mm.
That was a staple in our home, of course. But yeah, so they were tentative. They weren't quite sure how to feel, what to think, you know.
Okay, great. Yes, ma'am. And both of my sisters send the greetings and they say all praises to Allah. And thank everyone who's continuing to watch, like, share, and please continue to subscribe to the People's Podcast. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. Um, what was it like for you to be around Muslim Mrs. Farrakhan in the 90s? Like, what was that like?
Wow, we were busy in the 90s, just busy constantly. Of course, when I came in, the first time I went to the mosque was January of 1991.
Mm,
And our beloved sister, Dr. Ava, she usually carries that first year lecture. And that's who I
mm,
heard for the first time coming into the
mm,
mosque.
mm, mm,
And I remember her teaching on, it's not that Allah doesn't hear our prayers, is that we are unwilling to accept his responses. So
mm,
that
mm, mm.
really resonated with me. And I immediately came in and I wanted to go as fast as I could through orientation. Don't hold me back. My first lecture with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan was The Will of God.
Mm.
No, who is God? Who is God? That was at Savior's Day at the Christ Universal Temple. And I remember being in an audience screaming, yes, yes, God is a wonder. I told you. So I was in love, and we were just busy constantly, dinners and outreach and um, orientation class. I was blessed to help with the orientation class for the sisters for a while. Um, and then I worked at the final call with Brother Wali. May Allah be pleased with him. Brother
Mm,
Wazir, may Allah be pleased with him.
mm, mm.
Um, and we were just busy. And it was beautiful to have aim and to have purpose, and have a mission that you can wake up to every day. Um, Aside from my husband and I trying to be an example of Black love, Black business ownership and management, and bringing in employees. Some of the sisters and brothers from the mosque were our employees, and just trying to build that family unit. It was exciting. It was exciting.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And Brother Rashad, Anil Muhammad sends a greetings, Sister Salima sends a greetings, and Sister Valerie
Oh,
um,
praise.
sends her love as well. What I was going to ask you is, so when you worked at the final call, what was that like?
Oh, wow. Final call. It was beautiful. Okay, so first of all, let me give you context. I was hired to be Brother Wali's administrative assistant, and I think within a week or two, I became the management, part of management, and
Mm,
I was in charge of everything other than the publishing of the newspaper.
mm,
So, human resources, supplies and ordering and distribution of the paper. We were at the time, Brother Leotis was with us, and he was just driving all over the country. We were shipping the newspaper to LA at one point. So we just had a full operation going. And this was in 1991. Yes, yes, I'm trying
mm,
to remember 1991. And that year, we were having a huge Savior's Day, of course, in October. We were also redecorating the final call. And that's how I met Brother Richard. He had come by the final call, and he took me and one of the sisters. We would go out and go shopping for carpeting and furniture and drapery and all kinds of things. And a lot of the brothers like to joke with Brother Richard, you wasn't over there selling her no carpet, but anyway, that's what I was buying. Okay, for the record.
mm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But it was exciting. We were busy, we were committed, we were faithful, we were trying to spread the word of truth, and it was literally a 24-hour operation. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Praise be to Allah. Do you
And
ever?
your father, let me not forget your father, because he was an intricate part of this dynamic at the time. Oh my
Mm,
Lord. Um, I remember when because I think we were monthly at the time, and I think we went bi-weekly, then we went weekly, and I was like, Brother Sharif, how are we gonna do this? I mean, because just the whole process of getting that paper across the nation and shipped on a timely manner, and then of course the minister brought the trucks, and getting the brothers trained and licensed and driving. It was a lot. It was a lot. And if you had told me that we were going to do this in such a short period of time, our distribution was greater than that of Ebony magazine.
Mm,
At some
mm,
point, if it's not still, yes, sir, all praises due to our Jet
mm.
magazine. Our distribution was much higher than that, and I think at the time they were like at 80,000 papers or something like the Ebony 80,000. Don't quote me on the numbers, but I
Yes, ma'am.
vaguely remember we were rocking it. We were rocking it. Excuse my slang here, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And do you ever go back to the final call now, like the building, or you visit and things like that?
Well, I haven't been in Chicago for quite a minute.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
family's still there, of course, and my mother made her transition in 90, oh, 2019. Yes, sir. Okay.
Mm.
That was just a few days ago, it feels like. And I haven't been back to the final call in Chicago since 2019, I think.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so no, I had not been there lately.
Okay,
Yes.
yes, ma'am. What if you can give advice to people who um, manage different businesses because of your business experience? What would be the main advice you give people who are in business and dealing with management?
Wow, great question. Great question. First and foremost that comes to my mind is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. Um, when you're in business, you want to, it's not about being the cheapest price, but being competitive. Okay. Making your word bond. That was really important for me, especially when my husband and I were, in the thrones of our businesses initially. Brother Richard was sometimes off with the minister on a detail, and he's supposed to be 4 o'clock appointment somewhere. The person's calling, where is he? And I'm like, we have to make our work bond, that was really important. And in doing that, making your word bond, setting your policies and procedures, and not being afraid to hold on to them and implement them. It makes no sense to set a policy and then you don't follow it. So that's important because then it creates a certain sense of reliability and consistency in your product and your offering. Um, giving people a receipt. I know that sounds really crazy, but that's a big stickler for me. That
Mm,
shows that you are operating a real business enterprise and you're giving someone a receipt. Um, being open, not trying to mix different things together. We would have people that come by, oh, you got a beautiful showroom, here's some cell phones, you want to sell those? I don't sell cell phones, I sell carpet and blinds and drapery. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm, mm,
And sometimes in our businesses, we walk into businesses and it's just all kinds of stuff going on. And it's like, what is your main product that you're serving?
mm, mm.
Serving, selling. So, um, so those are some of the things that I got from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Make your word bond. The people are looking for that. They're looking for you to be personable, to, you know, the whole dichotomy of how we treat our customers and how customers treat us. As a Black business owner, I have to I have to be the best at what I do. I'm supposed to be the cheapest. I'm supposed to give, that discount. You got a discount, so it gets kind of lively. And we can't make a mistake as a Black business owner,
Mm.
because we're blasted on Facebook and all of these different social medias. But the other side of that is, if you provide a quality service and you strive to do right by people, like now, I don't do a whole lot of advertising. My clients, my patients refer me to their friends and their families. All praise is due to Allah. And they keep me nice and busy.
Mm,
All
mm,
praise is due to Allah. So someone asked me the other day, what's the key to advertising and marketing? Good patient care.
mm,
You get that right, they'll keep coming back and they'll send their friends and family to you. So
mm,
yeah.
mm, mm.
Praise to Allah. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Great response. And Brother Daniel Muhammad sends a greeting. So many people showing you love. And speaking of businesses, I have a quick 60-second commercial break, Dr. Jennifer, for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this season and this month. I want to thank everyone who has continued to show love with sponsorships, donations. One second. We greatly appreciate everyone's sponsorships. We would not be able to do this without you all. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, but yes, ma'am. Hold on. We coming right back to you. All right. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, here we go. And thank everyone who continued to thank you to the love for us promoting in the comments as well. Thank everyone who shows love on YouTube because sometimes we don't get to show love to the people in the YouTube comments. If you would like to be a sponsor or donor, please cash app the People's Podcast to help us keep going. Thank you very much. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Thank you very much. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, both of which are available on Amazon. Please make sure you all go out and get those. My sister Naima, Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet to young girls virtually all across the country and right here in studio in Atlanta, Georgia. We love our tiny dancers. Also, our brothers out of the West Coast, MTS Car Bros, any make, any model, any year, 30 to 50% off. They'll ship the vehicles to you all. Thank you all very much. Sister Rashida Rafat, Raw Communications. She offers project copy editing, project management, content development, media relations, and consulting. If you're writing a book, please reach out to and need help writing a book, please reach out to Raw Communications. She does an amazing job. The Elevated Places with our sister Melva out of Houston, Texas, where I am, what God says I am. They do a great job of teaching young kings and queens in the education field right out of their own school at Elevated Places in Houston, Texas. Asiatic Minds Online, an online school which is launching this fall. Please enroll your students. AsiaticMinds.com. They do a great job of creating young gods, kings, and queens virtually. Thank you very much. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you all anywhere in the country. Thank you very much. I'm coming right back to our sister, Dr. Jennifer. WFM Law Firm, the law office of Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad, helping our clients get help due to injuries and negligent intubation and anesthesia. WFMlawfirm.com, the law offices of Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad. Thank you very much for that attorney. Dr. Henry M. Carter, King Henry's Turkey Legs, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 Disinfecting Cleaning Services out of Chicago, Illinois. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all very much. And right back to our esteemed guest, Dr. Jennifer Muhammad, ma'am. Okay, beautiful. My next question is, how was the Million Man March for you as a sister? And were you still what was the climate like in Chicago?
Wow, it was awesome. It was awesome. I'm going to try to find some better words for you, but it was awesome. Yes, sir. Well, first of all, my husband and I were officers during the time, so we were very busy, very much engaged in helping to navigate and orchestrate and get people on buses. We were blessed to help with sponsoring a bus to get some brothers to Washington. So that was an awesome experience. Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. And I remember the energy of it was just explosive, you know. None of us had really imagined what a million men looked like on that mall. It had been a while since I had been to Washington personally, so just trying to remember what that landscape looked like. But I remember waking up in the morning, and it had to been, I don't know, maybe 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock our time in Chicago, and turning on that television and seeing all of those men already out there before the program had started. And one of the sisters brought her children over, so we watched it together during the day. And just the beauty of seeing all of those brothers, and then they took charity. It was like, whoa, Just the spirit of peace was just so, you can feel it through the television screens. And then as the day progressed, all of the different networks started getting on the bandwagon. Like, we can't miss this. This is, this is some big happening. I want to say it initially just started on, what is that, C-SPAN, if I remember correctly. All the networks was hosting it, and it was explosive. It was explosive. So yeah. And I remember when my husband and some of the brothers flew back into Chicago, and we picked them up at O'Hare, and just seeing their aura walking at us, I knew for a surety that that man, my husband, was a different man. He was not the same man that left here. All praises due to Allah. And yeah, yeah. And it's, that was the year that my middle son was born. He was born in March of 1995. So when the minister called for us to go back into our communities to adopt the children, we were already there. My husband and I had already started looking at adoption. So, yeah, so it was awesome. It was beautiful.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about the adoption. What was that process like, and what advice would you give to those who are going through the adoption process?
Sure, certainly. Thank you. If I can tell a brief story, I really am going to be brief. Everybody knows me, so Jennifer can do some talking. Um, but this would have been in February 1995. I got a phone call one day after the mosque meeting on the Sunday by Sister Captain Charlene. She was a captain at the time, and she says, "Jennifer, there's a young woman here who is pregnant, and she came to Chicago to meet with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to ask him to refer a family to adopt her child when she had him. She was 8, 9 months, ready to um, deliver, and we got that call, and I remember like, what? My husband and I had been married 4 years at the time. And so we went and we met with Sister Captain Charlene, and we met this young lady. She was staying with one of the MGT here in Chicago. She already had another child as well, and her family didn't know she was expecting. So I understand now as a provider how that dynamic can happen, where you're literally looking, normal weight, but the stress of telling someone that I'm pregnant, and once you let it out, you literally, bloom. And so we decided we would do this. She said she didn't know who the father was, and this, that, and the other. And my husband and I, our position was, if ever the father surfaced, we would not stand in the way of him raising his child if that's what he desired to do. Um, my husband and I went on vacation, as we were always apt to do. We went to Mexico. We came back in about 5 days. We landed stateside and got all these phone calls. You need to get to the hospital. She had the baby early. The hospital's like, if you don't come and get this baby, we're gonna have to turn it over to DCFS in the morning. Blah 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 blah. So we went and we picked up this child, um, of whom we called Joshua. I love the name Joshua. Yeah, yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. And we brought him home, got car seat and supplies and this, that, and the other. And I became a mom. And, for 5 sleepless nights. And so, my husband was out doing his business, and he came home, and I had gotten a phone call from the mother. All of a sudden, she remembered who the father was and where he was. And the father called, and we talked. And he didn't know that she was pregnant and had the baby. And he definitely was adamant about wanting to be a part of this young boy's life. And so, my husband and I was like, I don't know that we can do a joint custody kind of thing. This was also new to us. And so the next day, we packed up Joshua's things, and my husband went and took the baby back to the mother, and we've never seen him since. So I could be walking past him every day and not even know it, you know. But at the same time, my husband and I were so heartbroken. We decided we're ready to go ahead and try to adopt. So we contacted the, Department of Children and Family Services in Illinois, and they started, talking to us about foster care. And next thing you know, we were doing all the applications, and they came up with a son for us. And that's my middle child. He was born literally the same day as Joshua was born in the same hospital. So, is there such thing as coincidence? Absolutely not. you
Yes,
know,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
so we met him. He was the most beautiful little boy. He still is a beautiful young man, and just full of life, full of energy. And I got scared. I was like, no, I want a girl instead.
Mm.
Well, 3 days later, I get a phone call. Guess what? Christopher has a sister. I'm like, whoa. you know, and I remember talking to some of the elder MGT, and, what should I do? What should I do? And they're like, take both of them. I'm like, what? That wasn't the response I was looking for.
Mm. Mm.
Um, yeah, so we foster cared. We were foster parents for these two beautiful children, and at one point, the mother wanted to reconnect, but only with my daughter. I said, well, that's not right. We're not having that. They're a package. Everywhere they went, they were a package. And my father and my son also share very close birth anniversaries. So I knew all of this was meant to be. My father absolutely loved those children. I mean, of course, he has other grandchildren, but he was just fixated with these little children of mine,
Yes,
because I
ma'am.
was the youngest and I was the last to have children. So um, I guess they had almost given up hope on me. But anyway, so we went through a long process of having to ultimately, the state had to get the parental rights terminated for the mothers and fathers. And at one point, I was going through different caseworkers, because social work is not an easy arena, dealing with families that are being broken apart, and children being scattered around. That's a very difficult, emotionally draining career. So I applaud any of our sisters and brothers who are in that line of work. And so then I finally had to take charge of the process. Every time I got a new social worker, this is where we are, this is what still needs to be done, and so on and
Mm.
so forth.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I want to say it almost took 3 good years before the adoption was finalized. And it was very important for us that the children be given the name Muhammad. So we had to go through our own personal name changes, the legal name change process. And we did that just to make sure that as that birth certificate was being produced, it had Muhammad's name on it,
Praise be to
So,
Allah.
yeah, all praises due to Allah. So, um, a very grueling process. And then there was others around us who was, adopting as well, because the minister told us to go home and adopt our, bring our children and get our children and bring them into our homes and nurture them. And so that's what we were trying to do. And yeah, so it was an awesome experience. And now they're adults. My youngest has her own child now. He's 3.
Mm.
They're actually visiting here from Chicago. So it's been a beautiful weekend just having them here. So yeah.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Now, with did they did the mother and the parents, did they ever try to, once it was finalized, did they ever try to reach back out after that?
No, they didn't. And I went to my prayer rug on that. I said, now listen, Allah, I'm in, I'm in for this. However you want me to play, whatever role you want me to play, I'm down for it. But I'm going to get an Academy Award at the end of the day. But no, I I really asked Allah, if this is what you desire for us to do, remove all the barriers, all of the obstacles, um, that this is what we will do. I mean, if you decide that you want us to return them back to the parents, if you want us to share, whatever you want us to do, Allah, I'm willing to do that. So having that hard and mind of submission and willingness to do what Allah wanted us to do, I think is what spared us the challenges of having to work with the family and things of that nature. Um, and then, of course, I cannot forget my oldest son, which is my husband's former wife's child, that we also have taken an absolute love for and been helping to raise and be a part of his life. So I've got three children, and yes, praise be to Allah. And I'm trying to be a good example to them. You know, now that we are at a different stage where they're adults, and I'm trying not to exert my opinion all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
So praises due to Allah.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And Sister Erica Davis sends the greetings. Sister Salima says, beautiful story. And Minister Aisha out of Phoenix says, yes, name the babies Muhammad. And Brother Daniel says, beautiful testimony, sister. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Well, what has been your greatest joy in your tenure in the nation?
Wow. Um, Sometimes I literally sit in a corner and I watch myself and I see my growth. I see the blossoming. You see behind me, that's a butterfly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Don't see is the butterfly came from her hands. And
Mm,
so the name of my clinic is Healthy Wings Primary Healthcare. And it's about the blossoming of a butterfly and being freed from disease. And
mm,
so I see how Allah has freed me from so much. You know what I mean? And people see me as, why are you so happy all the time? Look, I'm 6 feet above the ground. It's a good day. I'm in part of my right mind. I got all my fingers and toes. It's a good day. No one had to feed me, flip me, or wake me. It's a good day.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So when you look at it from those perspectives, it's a good day. But just seeing the growth and the road that Allah has taken me on that I had no idea that I would travel. Uh, None of this was what I planned to do in life, what I had dreamed of as a little girl, and but I would not change a thing. I absolutely adore my husband. He gets on my last fifth cranial nerve. Yes. you know, um, and we've had our challenges. We definitely have had our ups and downs, but for a surety, when we are challenged, we know how to bow down and submit and ask Allah, come into the center of this and help us to communicate one with another.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
you know, I look at him as a gift to me, you know, and I think he looks at me as a gift to him.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't know what's going on in that dome, right? But I think that in that we both strive to treat each other like the gods that we are. How do you handle a God?
Mm,
How do you
mm,
correct a God? You
mm.
know? So those are some heavy concepts that we really do try to practice with one another. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Well, speaking of that, your husband spoke very highly of you on our interview. If people watching can go back and watch Officer Richard Muhammad on the People's Podcast of our interview. What advice would you give to future wives?
Wow. Mhm. They used to kick me out the MGT because when I start talking about submission, like, what? That's a cuss word, Sister Jennifer. No.
It's
Um, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that the Black man cannot protect us if he doesn't know where we are. And I see sisters, all day not communicating with their husband. You're moving from here to there. I'm not saying he needs to know every element of every move that I make. But even though he does what he does and he's traveling sometimes, I'm letting him know where I'm at. So he doesn't have to worry about me. And he makes sure that I have the tools and resources that I need that I can be resourceful and do what
mm,
needs to be done in his absence.
mm,
So
mm.
um, communication, you know, we've been married. Tomorrow is 29 years for us. Woo. I'm only 35. You all do that math now, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But 29 years. I would say the key is communication and prayer. A family that prays together stays together.
Mm, mm,
We're not diligent. We're not, every day, all day. Um, but I know if we're challenged with something and I say to him, brother, you need to turn to Allah, he knows he needs to turn to Allah. Don't fight me on that. you know, um, if he's somewhere and, with my busy day, I'm moving and doing this, I'm seeing patients and making phone calls and I'm here and there. If Allah stops me and says, call your husband and say XYZ, I need to stop and
mm,
call my husband and say XYZ.
mm,
And I have to, let my husband know when that happens, when Allah breaks through all of my chatter and gives me a word for you, and I submit to give you the word, you need to heed the word.
mm,
you
mm,
know.
mm, mm.
So we are a guide for one another as husband and wife. And if we are really truly striving to be one with one another, we have to be willing to submit. Oh, see, there's that word. We need to submit to one another.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
sir. But I think the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said it once. He said it best once. If a man or woman is not being good to themselves, not loving themselves, they ain't got nothing for the rest of you,
Mm, mm, mm.
including your spouse. So self love is imperative to the Black love. If we are not in love with ourselves, and I'm not talking about a narcissistic, insane kind of love for self, um, but if you don't do the basic things for yourself, feed yourself good quality food, you exercise, get enough sleep. As a spouse, I have nothing coming. You know,
Mm,
how can I
mm, mm.
expect you to attend to me and you're not attending to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, I of course I've got a million and one words of advice, but that courtship process is imperative. And many of us are trying to skip that as if it's not necessary. I'm grown. Yeah, I was mature and adult, and so was my husband when we married. But we courted each other.
Mm.
I made him court me. You gotta win that affection.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And everyone loved my husband in Chicago.
Mm,
So for him to have his eye on me, they're like, "Who is she, new sister." But I didn't know the law in this entirety, but I knew that I had enough people around me to say, "Hey, what he's supposed to be doing? Is he supposed to be doing that?"
mm, mm, mm,
That
mm.
kind of thing. And we cannot skip the imperative process of courtship and how to take each other to court and ask those seemingly difficult questions. There's no such thing as a hard question except for one you just don't want to ask because you don't
Mm,
want to answer.
mm,
You know?
mm.
Absolutely. So those are some of the things I would offer to sisters who are thinking about getting married or are married already. It's never too late to revamp your marriage and put it into a different rotational spin. So crazy to Allah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have so many comments. I'm coming to you all comments and questions, but I was going to ask: have you or do you have any intention of going into the ministry?
Okay, so, good question. Praise be to Allah. Um, I have often, I was part of the student ministry back in the early 90s
Okay.
when the beloved minister Louis Farrakhan started wanted to start seeing women in the ministry. Myself and Sister Linda, who's in St. Croix, we were two of the first sisters brought into the ministry class
Mm,
and sat under Sister Dr. Minister Ava and Brother Abdullah. Yes, sir, Minister Abdullah. And I had opportunities to speak on the rostrum, of course, and um, my role in mine was really in the MGT class, helping to teach and train the women, and being taught and trained as well. Um, Learning how to deliver the word. One of the beautiful parts about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that he's able to create word pictures. So you literally sit there and say, I see. I can see what he's saying. He's drawing with, the picture with his words. So I've been striving to do that. And of course, I minister a lot with my patients. I would say 70% of my work as a practitioner is education, educating my patients and inspiring them and motivating them. And, many of them will come in and say, I heard you in my head last night telling me to drink more water. I said, I'll pray for you. You know? So my work of ministering is not over. As a matter of fact, this morning I was ministering to a group of students. So I'm always ministering, and wherever that is, I'm doing some form of teaching and training and getting taught and trained. So all praises to Allah.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Um, Sister Valerie Metoyer, I'm just going to say Metoyer, says, thank you for sharing your adoption story. It was encouraging on a personal level. The example of going to your prayer rug about dealing with the biological parent was very timely. All praise due to Allah. My sister Miriam said, all praise due to Allah. Sister Minister Aisha says, congratulations on your anniversary.
Praise
Brother
be to Allah.
Daniel says your husband was his first officer when he became registered in the nation. And beautiful people, everybody saying good teaching. Sister Rachel Neal. Hey, Sister Rachel Neal from Phoenix, Arizona says good teachings. Beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes,
Sister Rachel, and thank everyone who was watching.
yes.
My next question for you is, what advice would you give to future mothers?
Mm. Whew. Well, like I mentioned this weekend, my daughter and her son, my grandson, are in town, and you know, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack with that question, but we have to remember that our children, they're not adults yet. So there's not like they're adults in little bodies. They're not there quite yet. Um, and we have to be patient with them. You know how, you're reading the Quran and Allah is saying over and over again, he's repeating himself over and over again. I remember saying, what, Allah, what? You just said this on the last page. You're saying it again now. And, he said back to me, well, if you always do what I asked you to do, I wouldn't have to keep repeating myself. So, so as a parent, you will repeat yourself, and you need to be patient with that repetition. um, a reminder is a blessing from your Lord, as we're taught. So reminding the child, do this, do that, and gradually going from just doing to why are we doing, giving the child context. um, this little boy said something so crazy to me this morning, and I had to do a double take. Okay. So I thought I was talking to his mother. It's like, no, this is a 3-year-old in my face, Sister Jennifer. Okay, tone it down, bring it down. He's a child, and he needs context to understand that you just do not talk to Gigi like that, okay? Gigi is not for play place.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But just learning, our children need our patience, and they need our attention. And I know that many of us are working, and we're trying to manage households and husbands and all of these different, and our parents, all of these different dynamics. But each one of the children in your home, including your husband, who's not a child, we know that, but your husband as well, needs your time, needs your attention. And set that time. Many of us, we schedule everything else in our lives except for our home life. So we wing it when we get home. Have a 30-minute timeout. Everybody kind of go and just relax. allow me to go from being a business person or whatever work I do to come home and make that transition, so that when I'm speaking to you, I'm not speaking to a coworker, I'm speaking to my child. you know um, Planning when the children are supposed to go to bed. Why are 3 and 4 year olds up at 10 o'clock at night? You have nothing to talk to me about at 10 o'clock at night. I'm sorry. Here, children need their rest. So we need to put them down and let them get their rest, feed them and let them get their rest. The beautiful part about what I have been able to do over the years is I've been free in my own businesses to set my schedule.
Mm.
So I can't tell you how much that makes a difference in running a household. So I'm not under some of those 9 to 5 pressures, or there's, uh, for many of us, it's an hour to get to work, an hour to get home. So 7 to 7 pressures. So you really don't have time to really get anything done. But we, as house managers, housewives, we need to manage our homes. And in managing our homes, we're managing the people in our homes. So we have so many skills that we can go to the marketplace with. We're accountants, we are human resources, management. All of these things are skill sets that we can take into the marketplace. But we also need to be about the business of making sure our home, our base is solid, and able to give time and attention to our children and listen to them. They have a lot to say, and it's not about just, oh, you need to be busy, here's a device, go sit in the corner and play with the device. And when that child doesn't know how to articulate and how to function in the world, it's because you put these artificial toys in their face all day long.
Mm.
They don't know what human interaction really means.
Mm. Mm.
So
Beautiful. Great responses. And thank you all for watching. And thank you for your transparency and honesty. What type of music do you listen to, Dr. Jennifer?
good question. Well, right now I'm listening to psychiatry, mental health, nurse practitioner, neurological basis for psychopharmacology.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's my music of choice in my car, at home, everywhere I go right now. But no, I love the 60s and 70s, the Motown sound.
Yeah.
The early days of Michael Jackson, and
Mm.
Luther Vandross, when Luther was Luther Vandross. You know, um, okay, moving on. So yeah, I love jazz. I love opera. You
Mm.
know, I like symphony music.
Mm.
When I was in school, I listened to a lot of symphony music while I studied. There was something about the music that helped me to study better. So yeah.
I agree. I listen to that when I play chess online. I have to turn off my usual rap music or R&B or pop. I'm like, no, let me throw some jazz or some orchestra on there or something. It helps you for sure. Um, what do you do for fun?
Fun. What's that? Some cereal is supposed to lift you? Okay, I just dated myself. That was a commercial from the early 70s. But anyway,
Mm. Mm.
um, I love to swim. I love to read. Um, I love to travel. That is really probably my biggest passion. I love to travel. I love to go to new places and interact with new people, and um, call myself learning new languages without trying to curse someone out because I said it wrong. Yes, sir. Um, and that's one of the beautiful things that Brother Richard and I have done. We have traveled some of everywhere,
Mm.
up and down Mexico, the Caribbean, Central South America, Europe, Dubai. We have not been to the motherland yet, though.
Mm.
I hang my head because that was part of what I was supposed to have been doing last year. But yeah, we love to travel. Love to travel. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And the reason is one of the reasons you haven't gone to Africa is because of the bugs, the flies, or like why? Why?
Well, at one point when we were trying to do that, as I mentioned, I work for the airline, so we get to travel with a discount fare.
Mm.
So
Mm. Mm. Mm.
whenever I was trying to, go somewhere to the motherland, the loads on the planes, they were oversold or whatever, and it's not a matter of just being able to get there. You got to be able to get home. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You know, being in a foreign country with limited funds is not good. So been there, done that. So yeah, we just have not been able to get there. But I remember one Ramadan in August. You know, we got up and was listening to the prayer line with everyone, and Brother Minister Akbar said, "You've never experienced Ramadan until you've been in a Muslim country." And
Mm,
so
mm.
we jumped up, and by that evening, we were in Atlanta and we were on our way to Dubai. And we're going to experience Ramadan in Dubai.
Mm.
And one of the biggest, uh, you know, to dos that we always say in the airline business is you need to know before you go. Okay. So we went, the lows looked good going, the lows looked coming back. They looked okay. What we didn't know when we got there was that there was an embargo leaving Dubai. So we got
Mm.
stuck in Dubai
Mm.
for about 3 or 4 days. But hearing the call to prayer throughout the day was just phenomenal. You know, seeing the whole country shut down and stop movement and stop all the busyness of the city for Ramadan. We were literally in a shopping mall with 1,200 stores, mind you.
Mm.
You can't even wrap your head around 1,200 stores in one mall, right? But
Yes,
we were
ma'am.
in a mall at 1 o'clock in the morning during Ramadan, you know, because it finally cooled off, first of all, and then everything was open. But just that experience was awesome, you know. So we have been really, really blessed to go places and experience things. So yeah. So my next trip is definitely to the motherland, inshallah.
Please praise be to. Okay, please let me know how it is because I've never been, and
Yes,
some of my friends from high school go, and people and they always try to encourage me to go. But I would like to, I'll let you be the test runner, and just let me know, how it goes.
yes, sir. You know, we have been so miseducated and so ill-informed about what we could expect on the motherland.
Mm,
You know, I have some of my mentors are from Sudan and from Nairobi and all of these different countries, and they tell me the stories. It's not flies all over the place and just huts here and there. There's real cities with trains and cars and planes and
okay.
and it's beautiful. And so I've seen some of those pictures, and it's like we have been misinformed because they do not, our enemy does not want our hand to connect the hands of our brothers and sisters on the motherland. And as long as we're ignorant and we think that that's no better than Gary, Indiana, or 47th Street in Chicago, we're not trying to go a 15-hour flight across the waters to see that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yes, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And we have sisters and brothers who have bought land on in Africa, and they're connecting with the communities there. So yeah, I can't wait. We need to do that next week. I'm sorry.
Okay. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Um, my next question is: if you could meet God face to face, and you
Mhm.
and he could ask you a question. Well, first of all, what would you ask him?
Mm.
If you ask him one question, what would you ask him?
First of all, if I don't put a period at the end of the question or a question mark, I can keep asking
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
elongated question. I'm sure he'll get it too. No, but good question. What would I ask Master Farad Muhammad when I meet him? And you see how I phrased that, when I meet him.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Um, I don't know. You know, why? One of the things I've always, when you're on a cruise ship and you're looking out over port and you see all this water, it's like, why is so much water? You know, I can't drink my way out of this equation. So, why the universe is so big, you
Mm,
know? Um, I know that we're not alone, but it seems like we're alone, you
mm,
know? And will we have an opportunity to go to other planets and experience
mm,
other forms, you know? So yeah, I would ask like 15 of those kind of questions in a row, and not pause, because if you pause, that means that's the end of the sentence. No.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And what do you think that he would ask you?
Hmm. What do I think he will ask me? See, that's one of those self-accusatory questions. See, I have been trained well as a nurse, and we
Yes,
assess
ma'am.
questions
Yes,
first.
ma'am.
What
Yes, ma'am.
are you asking me? Um, he would probably want to know, why am I so slow to forgive myself when I make a mistake?
Mm, mm, mm.
I am truly my own worst enemy, and I hold myself to a very high standard. Um, just shy of being crazy, really, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Now that I'm studying mental health and psychiatry, it's really just below the mark.
Yes, ma'am.
These
Yes, ma'am.
studies that I'm reading are not about me. They really are not. Um, I'm pretty slow to forgive myself, and I will, beat myself up about having done something that I mistook. You know, of course, we correct. Mistakes shall not exist among the laborers of Islam at no time. So we
Yes, ma'am.
correct the mistake,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I'm simply sitting there. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? What made me do that? So yeah.
Okay. What would you like your legacy to be, Dr. Jennifer Muhammad?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I talk to people about this every day, all day. My legacy. I want people to know that I am sincere. I am genuine when I say I care.
Mhm.
Um, and when I commit to something, you will see me striving with all my being to make that my word bond. I really, truly, truly believe that's the golden key to the Muslim, is making their word bond.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would want people to remember me as being that sister who really tried and strove hard to, when she says she'll be there for you, she'll be there for you, you know? So, yeah.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. I want to thank everyone who watched today. Can't wait to put this on YouTube. Thank you very much, Dr. Jennifer Muhammad, for coming on the People's Podcast. Please give the greetings to your husband and your children and grandchildren. And this has been an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you all for watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, man.
Bless you. Walaikum salam. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Praise
you.
be to Allah.